All right, now that we got the activity model and the activity UI built out, the next thing I want to do is tackle the concept of activity totals, or in other words, like how long did you exercise per week? So, for example, like it's pretty common to track how many miles per week somebody runs, or how many hours per week somebody exercises. That's just a common feature of most fitness applications. And there's a few ways to do this, and I know that I want to make this its own model. And a few years ago, I probably wouldn't have even thought of that as an option. I just would have thought, okay, well, every activity or most activities, have a duration and a distance. Let's just get like the last seven and add them all up, and then add it all up like kind of on the fly. Like as the page loads, maybe you just get the last seven and you add them all up, and then whatever. So that in and of itself isn't too complicated. But the problem is, let's say you're viewing a page and it lists the last year broken down into weeks, right? So there'd be 52 weeks in a year, and then within each week there could be you know 7 to like 50 activities per week, because someone could log a lot of short activities. So the problem there is then 52 times you would have to go through all the activities that spanned a week and add it all up, and then do it for the next one, the next one, and the next one, all on one page. And basically, that would become a super slow query, and it would take a lot of resources. So what I'm thinking of doing is just when you update, when you create an activity, or when you update an activity, and even when you delete an activity, it will actually just calculate the weekly distance and duration, and then save it in one place. And then ideally, what that would mean is each week would be represented by something in the database, and it would be tied to the current user. So instead of there being like an exponential amount of queries, if you were to go to a page and just look at the past year, it would just be, actually, I'm not even sure if it would be 52 queries, it might even be less than that, but it would be, everything would be calculated all at once. So the way I plan on doing this is there's actually some helpful Ruby methods here that I want to show. And let's see here. So let's start with, there's this CW year, which I think might be current year. And then where else is there? There's and current week, or maybe it's calendar. I'm not sure what this. I think it's C stands for calendar. Calendar. I think it's a calendar week year. So, anyways, what we can do, and then I couldn't find a method that does this all in one take. But basically, let's fire up our server, and I'll try to explain this. So I'm on my development server here, and let's just grab the last activity. So let's just see here. So there we go, activity. And then if I do activity.date, and that's the date that the user submitted. And then if I tack on, let's do calendar week year, will that work? I think I need to make this, I think I need to call to date on that. Because see right here, this is off the date class. And I think I think the date that I have in here, it might have time on it. Or actually, it does have time on it, I think. So that's the problem. So this right here, if I call calendar week year, it just gets the year, which is 2020. So that's cool. So I'm actually going to save that into a variable. If we just do, or you know what? Sorry, getting ahead of myself. It should be year. So if we do year, it's 2020. But we can also do, we can get the week. So in this case, it'd be 1 through 53. So if it was like January 1st, it was the first week of the year, it returned 1, and then so on and so forth. So if I just do this and return week, so it's the 34th week of the year. So now I have this information, which is helpful. So this is already kind of unique. Like there's only going to be one 34th week in 2020. But then even further from that, I found, where is it? There's this commercial method. And with that, what we can do is it'll actually return, I think it returns the first day of the week. And it just so happens that the day of the week and the day of the week should be negative. Okay, so that's what's get passed in there. Creates an object denoting the given week date. So I think what I can do here is this method will actually get me like it'll return a date object for the first day of the week, which in Ruby, I think that actually happens to be Monday. Maybe not just Ruby, but also all the programming languages. And that actually works well for this application I'm building because most runners start their week on a Monday in terms of calculating the weekly mileage. Not everyone does that, but it's something that I do. And again, that could be like later on in this application, there could be in the users, where are we here? The users table. We could even add like a column that's like first day of the week and then let the person choose. But for now, I think I'm going to keep it like this. So if we do date.commercial, and then we have to pass in the year, at least the year, but we have the year and the week. Yeah, because it goes current calendar, week, year, calendar, week. So I think we'd want to do year and then week. And then this actually returns the first day of the week. So what I'm hoping to do is kind of do this within a new model using a callback. And then what we can do is set that model, so that model will have like the date, which will be calculated on the fly. It'll be associated with the user, and then it'll have a column for the distance and the duration, and those will just be the total of all the activities that are greater than or equal to this date. But now the more I think about it, they would also have to be less than or equal to the end of the week, which I guess if we know this is always going to return a Monday, we could limit it to this date plus 6 days. So I think if I just do like, this may not work. Oh, it did. Okay. So I guess I could even do that. So maybe there would be another column in this model that does that we store this in. Not totally sure yet, to be honest, but I think I have a decent enough understanding of this. But you know, let's just do like something random here. Like, I want to make sure this always returns Monday. So let's just do for the year, let's just do 1845, and how about like the 13th week? Okay. So, I think I said 1845, but I typed in 1945. That's fine. So apparently the first day of the week, assuming that week started on a Monday, was Monday, and it was March 26th during the 13th week. Cool. So I think what I'm going to do here is let's go to our repo. Let's make a new branch. I'm going to call this totals model, I guess. And let's go ahead and create this. Let's go back to our editor and run git fetch. And let's do git checkout totals model. And git branch again just to make sure. Oh, you know what? Let's actually delete the activity UI. So get branch, delete activity UI, and get status. Get branch. I'm always checking to make sure I'm really where I think I am. So let's think this out here. Let's do Rails generate model. I'm gonna call it total. And although maybe I could call it activity total, a little more explicit there, because I don't know, maybe later on I'll have something else that I'm tallying up, and then we might want it to be different. Although there's a case to be made that at that point maybe it should be polymorphic or something, but I don't know, maybe I'll keep it more generic actually. I don't know. So total, so we know it needs to belong to a user, so the user references. We know that it needs to have a start date, I guess. And that should just be date. We don't need the time here. What else do we need? Well, going to the activities column or table, we do want a duration, and that should be integer. And we're also going to want a distance, and that's going to be similar to how we do it here. So I'm wrapping this in quotes because we're going to pass in these other parameters here. So we want to do 5 and 2. That's just so it has a precision of 5 and a scale of 2. Although, you know, the more I think about it, someone could, you know, run like 1,000 miles in a week or bike 1,000 miles in a week. So I might actually just, for the precision here, since this is being calculated, man, I kind of don't know here. Maybe I'll just leave this off for now. I can't like predict how big this number could get, and I'm afraid to like put a precision on there. So we have the user. It's gonna have that start date, which will be what we just described a few minutes ago. It definitely needs a duration. It definitely needs a distance. It definitely needs to have decimal spelled right. And I'm trying to think if we should do the end date. Because if we have the start date, we know the point in time that it represents. Because basically this is just representing like, it's a per week basis. And if we have that, that's pretty good. And then part of me is also wondering, like, do we even do date at all? Should we just do like, should it just have a column for the year and a column for the week in the year? So like one column, so like in the previous example was in the console, like the year column would be 2020. The week column would be like 34 because it's 34th week, but that seems kind of unnecessary. But then you have the information you need to do other calculations. But I guess you have that information right here because you could just use those methods on the date. Let's see. Well, we can always do other migrations. So maybe I won't even do start date. Should I do... Well, this is going to represent the first day of the week. So I don't know if the column should actually reflect that. Although I could also do, I guess there's nothing stopping me from putting whatever I want in this column. So I could, for now I'm going to do the beginning of the week. But then later on I could also do, I could run another calculation and it could be the beginning of the month. And then that would be a way for me to calculate how many hours someone has participated in an activity for the month. So I think I'll actually just leave it. You're probably watching this being like, dude, just run this migration already. But I'm trying to really think about the best way to model this because I don't want to get locked into a naming convention that doesn't really represent what this should do. Maybe I'll just do date, keep it generic. Okay, So Rails G model total, user references, date, duration integer, distance is decimal. I think that is good. Okay, so now let's just check out this migration we got here. So this is all good. For the date, we definitely want that to be null, or disallow null values. I'm kind of torn about integer, about the duration and the distance, because those are going to be calculated on the fly. So they probably would need default values of 0, I think. I'm just trying to think if, like, well, it kind of goes back to, like, let's say I just do a week of yoga. I don't do any running, I don't do any biking, I'm just doing yoga. So the distance would just be 0 for that week. And the duration would be whatever, how many ever hours of yoga I did. So I guess it would make sense to have the default 0 in both cases, but I don't want to force. I'm not going to do null false, because it's possible that one of these will be blank, because it's going to be based off the activity. So I think that's good. Let's just clear this out. Rails db migrate. Okay, and that ran. Let's run a quick git status. So that's all there. Let's just add all this and end it here. And we'll just say create total model. And we'll go ahead and push those changes up.